And welcome to Hypothetically Intentional, where we ask the question, what if we set intentions with everything we do? I'm your host, Michelle Aubers, and today I have special guest Alfina Lofaro. Welcome, Alfina.
Thank you. You got that right. It was Lofaro. Yeah, good
I
man.
know, I was like, what was the last name? I want to make sure I say it right. I have mispronounced names on here a couple times, and I'm always mortified because names are special and they matter. And then I'm like, oh, sometimes it's nerves, sometimes it's just forgetfulness. But we chatted for a really short while before we hit record, and I'm excited about this conversation. And you are open to setting an intention for us, and I'm wondering if you would set an intention and then maybe give us a quicker snapshot of who you are and what you do. And then I would love to dive into that on a much deeper level if you're open to it.
Absolutely. Thanks, Michelle. So I guess the intention I always have when I meet new people and when I'm out doing the work that I do is to genuinely create a connection.
Mm,
And that's the intention that I'd set for us today is to connect. Maybe it's
beautiful.
to connect with the person, with the ideas, or with who we are, to truly connect with who we are and how we show up.
Oh, that's amazing. That feels inspirational to me.
Oh,
Like as a
lovely.
listener, I feel like as a listener, it's like there's an invitation. I guess at least this is how it felt to me. Yes, we're going to connect. And yes, we both love the intention of us connecting on a deep level. But also, the loudest intention I heard in that was to connect with yourself. And
And
that changes
and if you
everything.
And if you ask me about what the mission I'm on or why I do what I do, so the basics are I'm a kinesiologist, um, so kinesiologist, relationships coach, leadership coach. I do a few things, but first and foremost, I've always been an educator. And
Mm.
so for me, what's really, really important is that the vehicle that I use is relationships, but I think everything in life is about a relationship. So we have relationships with our family, our friends, the obvious ones, but then there's the less obvious relationships like the relationship with ourself, the relationship with God, Allah, Buddha, universe, the relationship with money and health. And my philosophy is always that if we get good at relationships, we get a good life. And the most important part of that I encourage people to do through my work is to figure out who they are and how they show up in their relationships, because you can never ever fix or change anybody else. You can only ever work on who you are. And so that relationship with ourselves and how we're showing up is, I guess it's the fundamentals of what I do.
You're speaking my language.
I
I
love
that
that.
is so important. And I think we so often forget to consider it. Like we forget to consider ourselves within it. And I think, I don't know, I guess for me, where I started was in a place of feeling like I needed protection, maybe from myself more than anything else. But that affected how I showed up and how close I got, or even how I was willing to engage with others. And so I love the concept of, or the practice of showing up with and for yourself, which then deepens everything else that you do. At least that's how I interpreted what you just said on some level.
Perfect. That's perfect. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's perfect. Yeah. So that's, I guess, if I was to say why, because you and I met through like writing, and book writing, and that's why I've written the book that I have, because I'm so clear and so passionate about this topic that I think that we don't learn how to deliberately relate. We don't learn how to love deliberately. It's through accident, experiment, environment. So I always say it's like the people we were raised around teach us about relationships. Sometimes that's good, sometimes it's not great.
Yeah.
Then it's our experiments, when you're sitting with a friend and they go, well, you should do this. Why don't you try that? And we test things out, but we might be doing that without clear guidance. And often people get education, but it's in the moment of crisis already. So what I
Mm.
really, really want to help people with is to be deliberate about it. Like your podcast, that's what intrigued me about your podcast, is that it's set, what if we were, before we got into relationships, before or even in them, if we were really clear about what we wanted from them and who we wanted to be in them. Imagine that.
Right. Well, and the curiosity within that makes it seem a little more free and playful over like, what do you mean I have to look at myself? What do you mean I have to be deliberate in how I love? Which is, can we clear like the title of your book is Love Deliberately? Is
Yeah,
that?
that's right. So it's Love Deliberately, How to Be Less Shit at Relationships. It's got a
No, that's
very
amazing.
Australian subtitle.
That's awesome. And do you weave kinesiology in that? I don't know why that just popped into my head, but you mentioned
Correct.
kinesiology right out of the gate.
Correct.
I'm so curious about this.
Yes. So, just on the subtitle, people have come into my clinic. So I've been a kinesiologist for the last 5 or 6 years now, but I've been a coach for nearly 15, educator for 20. I'm getting older now. And people would come into my clinic or work with me as a coach, and they would say, I'm just shit at relationships. And I would always think in my head, you're not wrong. But it's not, it's not that it was not from a judgment place. It was like, yes, many of us are. And whether they would show up with their relationship with money, they would show up with their relationship with their body, their health, their family, significantly a lot of family members. But I've worked with a lot of people around their intimate partner relationships as well. And the reason why I wrote this book is I think that a lot of relationship books do focus on that romantic relationship. But the things that help people in their romantic relationships, the basics of it, trust, forgiveness, compassion, intimacy, all of those things are required. Good communication, they're all required in all relationships. So I wanted to write let's say, a basic book that would make us just a little bit better. And the way that I've put kinesiology in this is that there's 7 simple ingredients or basic ingredients that make any relationship a little bit better. My expectation is not we're going to be gurus or master relationships, be a bit better, because if we're a bit better, then our children will be, and so will their children. And then the shift is phenomenal. And so where the kinesiology comes in is you read the book, you will look at your relationship with that ingredient. So the first chapter is all about compassion. It's, do we have it? What's your relationship with it? And I teach people in there how to full body muscle test. So in
Mhm.
kinesiology, we speak directly to the body. And ask the body like to reveal what's going on unconsciously. So our thought process might be that, yeah, I'm a really compassionate person, but I'm like the muscle testing will ask the body, but are you compassionate to strangers? Are you only compassionate to people you know and like and love? And so it will reveal what we can't see, those blind spots. Yeah.
That's amazing. I love that so much because that in and of itself, what you just described is also very much checking inward with ourselves, which I think, I don't know. I guess I'm also a coach and I did Thai massage for a long time and energy work and working with people. I find, I don't know, it's like the checking in with self isn't where we start so often. And if that like, but for that to be the reflex or for that to be the intention or for that to be deliberate, more often than not, I'm not expecting perfection in any of this, but just more often than not, to consider yourself in this equation of life and relationships, and that we do have a relationship with ourselves. And I think we forget that sometimes. So I just love the layers in this, right? Because you're teaching so many different bits and pieces, and then they all layer together. It's like you say beginner, but I imagine that those ripples and how far that moves the degrees of how it radiates out, or the radiant of that is gorgeous and way larger than we could even maybe consider.
Michelle, you've just put that so beautifully. This is what I'm actually realizing. I could see all of this in my head for years because obviously I've been researching. I've studied with the Gottmans. I've like done all of the stuff one does to research to get where you need to be to write a book. And I would read all of this stuff, and I think this is so fantastic. When people would come to me with their challenges, they would always be talking about situations that happened with the other person. And inside of there, I could hear, you just like your relationship with trust across the board. It's not just with this one person, but what I can hear is you don't know how to do what people say is basic. Well, you just need to trust or you just need to forgive. But where do we teach people how? Where do we actually talk about or give space to, like, what are your values in relationship? Why do you want to be in a relationship? And I've been intrigued. Have you seen James Sexton? He's a New York. He's a divorce lawyer. He's New York's like most famous divorce lawyer, and he's now written a book about relationships, but from backwards mapping it, like what not to do to see me, the divorce lawyer.
Oh, that's funny.
And
The name's familiar, but
he's been all over the place. But one of the things he says, and this like fascinated me, is that, you know, when people announce they're getting married, we don't go, but why? Like, why would you want to do that? We just go, of course you are. That's what we do. That's what we do as human beings. And he said, if you ever ask them, they go, well, because that's what you do. That's what I want to do. And his perspective is, well, why would you want to get the government involved in your relationship? Because like his perspective is like if it ends up with him, it's the government's going to decide how that works, how it operates. At parts of the time. And what really resonated with me is it's not just marriage, but so many relationships. Why do you have the friends you have? Why are you in the like workplace relationships with those people? Like, what's your purpose with being there? Is it because you want to have fun? Is it because, you know, those friendships, you've just been friends with them forever, so you just are friends? Or do they help you grow? Do they nurture who you are? Do they support you in your dreams? Do they expand your consciousness? Or is there a soul purpose for those people who love that kind of conversation? Is there a soul purpose to that? Like, is there a way that you're helping each other fundamentally grow in your consciousness and awareness? Yeah. And so
do you
I'm
have, oh,
intrigued by
sorry, go
that.
ahead.
Yeah.
What's that? You're intrigued by it? Is that what you said?
I'm intrigued by that. And so when I wrote this, I was like, why don't we just go back to basics? Why are you in them? Like, how do you do them? Like, what are the mechanics of it? What's the anatomy of it? And how do we just get a bit better?
Yeah. Do you have like examples in the book of like real life experience of people who have, you do? Do
Yes.
you have like one that stands out? I'm just thinking of like how helpful it would be to hear like a lived example process. It can be super simple or it can be the part of the reason I'm asking this is because I'm loving you're using words that in my experience in working with people and even doing my own work, they're really big words. Trust, forgiveness, purpose, why. Questions that used to freak me the fuck out. Pardon my French, right? They used to scare me. But it was because I didn't know and I didn't know how to know and I didn't like to be wrong. I was a perfectionist, right? Like all these different things and I wanted control, right? There were so many things, but you're using these really big words, but the vibe I'm getting is that well, and I know it's truth because I've done it and I've experienced it, but like it's actually it's just not as hard as we make it out to be. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying that the shift is like, oh, you do it and we're done and it's over. But I am saying we overcomplicate it and we make it much scarier. It's like the scary thing is taking the step and the action to do the thing. But once you get started, you're like, oh my gosh, why did I wait so long? Then this is my experience, but it's also experience I witness with clients and even friends and family. So I just am thinking like, I love these words and these concepts. And I'm just thinking like, and I'm part of this is like, I want to explain why I asked the question, but I also want to give you a little bit of time to chew on it because I asked a really big question and I don't super love putting my podcast guests on the spot like that. And also you can say no. Sometimes it's just this calling to ask this question because it feels like it might help a listener. And so that's where that one came from, full disclosure, is just like, it feels like it would be really helpful for someone listening. Because when you say those words, some people are like freak out, like, nope, shut down, I'm over.
So what I'm deciding which one. So the way that my book works is I start the chapters out with a story, either client stories or intriguing stories that I've heard that illustrate that particular relationship ingredient.
Mm.
And often there'll be stories from my own life. And my whole book is written in a tone of, if I tell you mine, you'll tell me yours. So if
Cool.
I it's almost like, and people have told me this, Alfina, it's like you're having a chat with me. And I said, perfect. Because that's what I wanted. Because relationships, so often we get embarrassed or we're ashamed of the fact that we don't know how to do it. But where did we learn? Like, where did we may not have had the best role models. And so I wanted to write this book in a way that, like, if I tell you my story, maybe you will tell me yours. I might not be there, but you're telling yours and you're learning about you because I would say I showed up and shared mine. So I'll give you, is it okay if I read? I'll read a little
Sure.
bit
I would love
because you
that.
asked for an example. So I'll give you an example. This is purely from my life. And this one illustrates the differences we have in values. So I always say that I am shocked that any relationships work out, because when you take two people from two different cultures, backgrounds, two different ways of living, like social backgrounds, economic backgrounds, and you put them into a relationship, they're going to have different values and beliefs. And everyone says it, but relationships are mirrors. So when you put those two people together, they're going to reflect back the good, the bad, and the ugly. And so this is an example of my own life. So immediately after completing the 3 ceremonial laps, because I married a Greek boy, around the marriage altar at my own big fat Greek wedding, I realized I needed to learn how to love deliberately. Naively, I thought that finding the one meant the hardest part was over. At 37, it became apparent that being successful in marriage requires very specific skills and knowledge, and one that I hadn't mastered in my degrees or diplomas. What became painfully clear to me was that we attract family, friends, and partners into our lives who hold a mirror, and it's not always flattering. So, 3 minutes in, it was clear that my husband and I came from very different families and very different ways of seeing things, and our story is not uncommon. So, I set off on an adventure. This is why I wrote the book, to figure it out. We come from different countries, different cultures. He was raised on an island in Greece. I was raised on a farm in Australia, on a tiny little island, by the way. We have different and perhaps very opposite attachment styles. Like I don't have secure attachment. He's securely attached. When we joined our lives together, it was more like a roller coaster ride than the teacups at Disneyland with a happily ever after, basically. And so they're the type of things that I will share so people can see themselves in it. And there's one particular story, I'll just share it without reading it. But we were going into a car park in a major shopping centre in Brisbane, and it was empty. It's a Thursday afternoon. Here in Australia, we do late night shopping on a Thursday. So the shops are all open till 9 o'clock. And we were in there about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. The car park was empty. And I would have driven, so they're back to back car parks. I would have driven through my nose. So my nose was out, chosen the best part, me the door. But he chose this car park between a wall and a pylon, like a post and a wall. I'm like, and he reverse parked. He reverse parks into this park. And I go, what did you do that for? Like, just, okay, wasn't my curious face, it was my judgy face. What
Yeah.
did you do that for? And my husband, he's so beautiful. Like, I swear he always had tears in his eyes going, I can't do anything right today, can I? And I was like, oh, oh yeah, that's the bit where my judgment can really diminish you.
Yeah.
So I said, no, no, sweetheart, I'm just really curious. Like, this is the hardest. You reverse park into the toughest park. It's empty. And he looked around and he said, yeah, that's true. But it's Thursday night, and in a moment, there'll be thousands of parents, thousands of kids, trolleys, prams. And this way, no one's walking beside our car because they can't, and they're not going to damage our car. And I was like, damn, that's clever, right? So it highlights, so my priority or I guess my value is like future Alfina's ease of driving out. Whereas he's thinking, okay, if I put in the effort now, I protect the car, and I very different values focused on very different things. And the car is always immaculate and looks brand new, even if it's 10 years old, because he looks after everything. Whereas I'm like, right, how's the easiest way to get out of here? So the stories like that highlight those differences. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And super funny.
Yes. There is some comedy in there. I will share with you that so there's a story in here about closeness and in intimacy. Obviously, I've kept this book so anyone of any age could read it, but intimacy is not just about, so most relationships experts will talk about sexual intimacy, but I talk about this on a physical, mental, and emotional closeness is what I talk about with intimacy. And there's one story in there about my best friend at the time. We were friends. We'd been friends maybe a month or two, maybe a couple of months. I can't remember how long now, but not long into the friendship, he just let one big fart rip. And it's, that awkward moment, that
Yeah, and
moment.
you're like,
Yeah. And he looks at me, he turns to me and he goes, well, I guess we're friends now. That cements it. And I was like, since when is that kind of friendships? Like, since when? Is that the test? Did I not know this all along? But it was like, well, I feel relaxed around you. I feel comfortable around you. So that just happened. So everyone's sharing these stories gets people to understand that everyone's definition of these things is very different. But then gets them reflecting and thinking about it. And what I cleverly do in the book is going, okay, well, what's your equivalent to that? Like,
right.
yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love how honest it is too. Just even your first story, right? About like, that was my judgment voice, not my curious voice, and making that clear.
Yeah.
Oh, so I love that there's lived examples in the book. And also it sounds like you also have like ways to check in, like lived assignments almost. Like where like you get to check in with what is your subconscious really telling you through your body, through kinesiology.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just want to check in, Michelle, because in the Northern Hemisphere, kinesiology is very different to the Southern Hemisphere. So from what I understand in America, kinesiologists are more like physiotherapists.
When I hear the word, I associate it to physical therapy a lot, but I also understand and recognize the energetics of it as well.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I took yoga teacher training and we talked about kinesiology in there, and it was different than like physical therapy. So
yeah.
I love that we're clarifying this. So I would love for you to even clarify it further because
Yeah,
you're right.
Yeah, so I always just check in because when I've talked about it before, people are like, that's not quite how I understand it. So the kinesiology that I do is born of traditional chiropractics and traditional Chinese medicine, and they combine the two. And so what we do is we essentially identify a goal that a person has, and we align every cell in their body to vibrate at the frequency of their goal. And the way that we do that is by balancing what we call the triangle of health. So on one side, so we look at body, mind, and spirit. So there's structural, so your bones, organs, muscles, skin, and then your biochemical, so all of the hormone systems, your circulation system, all the systems in the body, and then the mental, emotional. And the idea is that if any of there's stress on any one of those parts, so you have a physical injury or an emotional trauma, or there's imbalance in your hormones, that triangle becomes out of balance. So what we do is ask the body, what do you need in order to be in balance, to be in homeostasis? Because in that state, in homeostasis, the body can heal itself. So what we do is we do muscle testing. So if you came into my office, I would test on your muscles. So a muscle that locks or stays firm is a yes, and one that unlocks is a no. So, or there's a stress or no stress. So we can test a lot by that. And we can ask the body, what do you need? So if somebody is unwell or unhappy, or whatever they've got going on. They want to make more money. Like I've worked with people across every goal in their life. And we ask the body, what do you need and in what order in order to vibrate at the frequency of what you want to attract? And so the way that I do that with relationships, I have had to keep it very simple because when people come to us, we can explore deeply and ask really complicated stuff. But it's literally yes, no questions with the book. So, for example, with trust, it's like, do I trust? Do I give my trust easily? Do I have to work around the concept of trust? Do I have to learn about that? What strategy could I use? What's my recipe for trust? Just we're testing all of the different things that would help build trust or break trust. So that's how we use it. But yeah, it is a bit different. Like I know that in America, it is more linked to physiotherapy than it is with the chiropractics. I mean, some of it is over there as well. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good distinction. And then the other thing I wanted to note is for the people who are, well, I mean, it is an audio only podcast. When you say testing the muscles, you mean like put their arm out straight and put a little pressure on it. And then if there's
That's a good
resistance,
point.
it's a yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's right. So, but we can test a heap of muscles. Sometimes we'll just test your arm muscles. We can test every muscle in your body, essentially. But generally, you'll have your arms out straight, and we will put some pressure on it, gentle pressure on it. If it stays firm, if you can resist that pressure and it stays firm, then that's what we call a locking muscle. And if it can't, you can't stay firm, it unlocks. It tells us there's a stress there, or there's something else we need to look for. Yeah.
That's amazing. Do you work with people one-to-one and like take clients, or are you focused on more speaking and educating through that avenue, or how do you do your work
All
outside
of
of the
the
book?
above.
Yeah,
All
beautiful.
of the above. So I see clients one-on-one. So at the moment, I do some work running leadership programs with some of my colleagues. We go into government departments or organisations. We teach leaders how to lead, and that will be pure. So we run workshops and then do coaching. But I also see clients one-on-one or couples. I work with couples sometimes as well. My This is a really interesting question that you've asked, actually, because in the last 2 years, so seeing people one on one, as you would know, you have to like your day is taken up all day with 4 or 5 clients. Maybe you can see 5 or 6 if you've got the capacity. But I felt like I could make a bigger difference with this information if I worked one to many and if I taught people how to test themselves. So rather than keeping the knowledge, teach people how to tap into their own wisdom, because it gave me that's what created the biggest change in my life. It was shift over the last, if you ask me, like I just turned 48. So in the last 5 or 6 years, I actually have a relationship with myself and can listen to my body. Before I suspect I was completely disassociated. I had workaholic tendencies, so I had to override any feeling of anything in order to just keep working and achieving, because I was being driven by that unconscious belief. And this actually allows me to talk to myself and my body and really learn about who I was. So it's almost like learning another language. You learn about yourself all over again. And I thought, why do we have to go see a practitioner to get this wisdom? How can I help people find this for themselves?
That's amazing. So do you do things virtually then? Do you teach things online as
Yeah.
well? Beautiful.
Yes. So I guess this is part of my growth and expansion as well. And I always like to be really transparent. For the last, so been working in sort of the personal development, personal growth industry for nearly 15 years. And for most of that time, I've worked teaching other people's content. And over the last year and a half, year and a half, I was like, right, it's time. I need to go out there and do this. And so whilst I have been doing it for a long time, it's not my content that I've been talking about all of this time. So right now I've created a workshop to go with the course. It's about to be launched in the next couple of weeks. I've been doing workshops, so I've been road testing all of this stuff. I've been taking it out and testing it with people. So yeah, I've been doing workshops. I've do one-on-one. I do online stuff. Yeah.
And
It's
where do we find your book? I haven't asked that question yet, and it's an
on
important one.
Amazon. It's on
Oh yeah,
Amazon.
beautiful.
It's
Beautiful.
on
That's amazing.
Amazon or on my website, alfinalofaro.com, but it is on Amazon. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. I just want to make
Yeah.
sure people know how to find it because this is such
Yeah.
important information and there's so many different ways we can get at it's such a weird way to say it. I don't love how it sounds, but like to get at ourselves, to really get into our souls or our highest self or your divine wisdom, whatever you call it for yourself, but like that piece of us that actually knows, like is actually wise and connected, to bring it all the way back to the intention of to be connected and to get connected and to invite and trust deep connections. And I think there's so many different ways to do that. And that's part of the intention of this podcast is just like as many stories and reasons and ideas and modalities as possible to help us help ourselves because ultimately no one can do it for you. And I think what you have here is such a beautiful, I'm going to call it a map, and maybe that's not recipe, I don't know, but like this way of accessing and really deliberately go in and discover and uncover like not only who you are and your why, to put it to the big words, but also like what might you need in any given moment. I think we forget to ask ourselves what the heck we need. And it's such a key piece to showing up in the world with love and compassion and connection. Because if you don't know what you need, you're running in some sort of a mode that isn't all you. Because there's a protection or a deflection or like there's some sort of a barrier that keeps you from all the things that we've been talking about. And the things you're mentioning are not small concepts on some level. And I'm not trying to overcomplicate it or make it hard. I'm just saying, like, they're words that I find give people angst at times, but they're also words that give people hope. Because if they can find someone who can help them access trust and forgiveness and love and connection and all of the other pieces to really become us, you, right? Me, all of that, then I don't know, life just gets better. And it impacts more than just you. And that's the thing. So many people come in, and I don't know if you experience this, and maybe it's a question, but like so many people are like, well, I don't want to be selfish. I can't be selfish. They have to come first. This other thing has to be more important because what do I matter? I'm just, and it's like, no. If you come first, then all that other stuff gets amplified in the best way because you have capacity for this to be stability and for this to be sustainable and for you to be able to continuously on the regular show up. Like I cannot tell you how much I'm grounding these days. Like I must, because if I don't, I'm going to unravel because there's a lot of stuff happening in the world that is unthinkable and horrendous. And that's always going to be true somewhere in the world, if not everywhere in the world. And what if we explore all these things that you're sharing with us today? What if we explore us? I don't know. Do you find similar things? I went off on a thing, but
Oh, completely. I'll share two things with you that might relate to this and help the audience understand that a little bit deeper. So when I was writing the book, and like I still reread my own work every day.
yeah.
I was writing the book, I had this, like I was like, I'm so sick of all of these influences and all of these people going, boundaries, you just got to have boundaries. And I was up on a soapbox going, I'm sick of people saying that, just have boundaries, but tell people how. How do you have boundaries? And I have this real aversion. I'm like, no, I'm not going to talk about it. I'm sick of it. It's a buzzword. Everyone thinks it's a cure-all. Like I had an attitude problem, real big attitude problem. It's a buzzword. I'm sick of gimmicks. Just tell people boundaries. Let's jump on the boundaries bandwagon. And then I went, oh, I really have an issue with this. I better have a look at it. And what I uncovered through writing that is that I had boundaries, and probably many of us do, but I would shift them so you would like me. And I
Yeah.
go, here's the boundary, but is that okay with you? Are you sure? I'll move it here. What about there? Does that please you? Will you reject me now? What about abandoning me? Maybe here. And I was like, what an incredible journey to like discover. Yes, I do have boundaries, but I shift them to please other people. Why? Because I don't feel like who I am is important enough or worthy enough to hold them. I want because I don't want you to reject me, or I don't want you to not like me anymore. So I think that we do have to have a look at those things, because that was showing up everywhere in my romantic relationship with my husband. I was saying yes when I really was like, yeah, I don't really want to do that, but I don't want to say that because I don't want to make you unhappy. What do you want? What do you need? Do it with my family, with my friends. But what it meant was that I spent a lot of time doing things and making other people happy, which I thought would be good because that makes me a good and virtuous person. I'm a good girl, was the belief or the unconscious driver underneath that, the sabotage. I have to be a good girl. You need to be good. And good people make other people happy and they please other people. I was exhausted
Yeah.
all the time. I was so tired. And so I think it is important for us to have a look at our relationship with things like boundaries or trust. So often, I was just talking to a young person this weekend who has just unfortunately been in a relationship that ended spectacularly badly for that person, and is now only mid to late 20s. Nope, wall goes up. If anyone makes a move towards that person or suggests even a flirt, nope, I'm business. I'm business only. And my heart breaks for someone so young to go, no, and verbally said, no, I don't trust it anymore. I don't trust myself to choose the right people anymore. Well, not at the moment. And he's all about this young man is all about making a difference and doing amazing things. But the relationships part is no, right now, too hurt, it's too fresh, which is great for him to like protect himself because he needs to. But down the track, what does that mean? What is he's going to need to shift that relationship with trust and have a safe place to be able to talk about it. Otherwise, it will impact his future choices. And so, yeah, people do come in all the time, telling me stories like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't relate to anything you were just saying at all.
Right.
No, not one bit. Or
Do
like
you
all
have
the
that?
bits.
Do you change the boundaries?
Change the
I feel
boundaries.
like I was
Oh my
like,
gosh. And just when I think I've got it, like something new will happen. I'm like, oh shit, I did it again. And I didn't even think I was doing it. I was unaware. No.
do
So
you know,
frustrating.
I have a question for you, Michelle, because the other thing that I was going to share is this. Like, as I've written the book, done different things, as I've achieved things, or I guess what's probably important to share here is the whole purpose of doing all of this was so I had a better relationship with myself. And what I learned was I don't allow myself to have fun or do things or challenge myself that would make in ways that would make other people feel bad or small. And so as I've gone through this, when I share, I'm going to do this or I'm over doing that. So the book's just won, for example, the book's just won an award. So I'm going to come to the States to actually accept the award. And when I've shared that with different people, it's like, oh, and they feel bad about themselves. So in the past, I would always diminish who I am to not make them feel bad. Oh, that's it. I'm sure
Mm.
you've done great things too, and then we start talking about them and I just diminish myself. I'm wondering, like, even with you doing a podcast and putting yourself out there, like it requires so much to know so much about yourself to
Yeah.
be able to do it. Have you found that?
Yeah. And it's interesting. like I didn't really, it was my son's idea. This started me and my son having conversations, and then my other son would join in every now and again. So it started in a very different place than where it's landed. He got busy, life moved on, you know what I mean? That kind of thing. And I thought I was ready. And then when it first started, I was not as ready as I thought I was to hear my own voice, like out in the world. I was like, oh. And like I had to really witness myself like overthinking or over chewing on, oh, I shouldn't have said that, or I should have said this better, or, like those kind of my ways of how I used to beat myself up and prove that I shouldn't be doing these things. You know what I mean? But I also recognize the work that I've done to recognize and understand that I really am good with who I am. And I know that I'm not going to be perfect, and I'm okay that I'm not going to be perfect. And what's the worst case scenario? I put out a crappy podcast one week that I really struggle with, and then the next week I make it right. Like I'm not afraid to be wrong anymore. I've
Love
learned so
that.
much. But here's the other piece of it that I forget when I invite people to be on. I forget that they're going to be not everyone, but like they might be nervous. They might be overthinking it. Like, how can I hold space and make it really create a really safe, opening, inviting container that doesn't feel so damn scary to someone who's never done this before? And so it is interesting and fascinating to witness all of the bits of this, not just my own, but also like how I engage with people. Because I've thought there's a couple I can think of that are friends as well. And they were like, I was, hindsight or afterwards, I was so nervous, but like, you're just really good at asking questions and putting me at ease. And maybe it's because we're friends, or maybe it's just because you're grounded in who you are and as a human. But it's fascinating because I really remember that I have to, well, not even I have to, I want to very intentionally be open, curious, and non-attached to it looking some sort of way. Like I didn't know how you were going to show up today or what you would want to talk about. And really my only rule, and I don't even know if it's a rule, is like this podcast isn't here to just be a pitch. Like that's not what I'm here for. I don't want to just talk about all the different things you're selling like that, but also I want to learn about what you do, how you show up in the world, and how you serve, and how that can help others. And then I want people to be able to find you. Like that's really important. So can it be both? I guess maybe, but the intention and the energy behind it is very, I don't know if that makes sense, but that was a long answer too and went all over
That's
the
good.
place.
That's
But
good. I
it's
think
been a ride.
that's right. And I think so. The reason for my question was like, in order for you to be able to do this, you've expanded yourself and who you are and who you allow yourself to be, or the judgment or criticism of others that you were like, oh, you're one of those coaches that's going to start a podcast or whatever people say. Like I've had that. It's like, so I guess you're going to start a podcast now. And I'm like, oh, maybe or maybe not. Like, is that okay with you and the world? Maybe if it's okay with me, that's fine. But the ways that we need to grow in order to do these things is really like it's so inspiring to me. And I just congratulate and hats off to anyone who will put themselves out there in order to serve. Because I get what that takes. Yeah.
Yeah, super vulnerable, which I never would have
Mm.
used that word. I never would have used that word before I did it. But this is like, is this season 2 or season 3? Oh my gosh. And that's years for me. Season is a year. And it is vulnerable. It's also, I learn so much, and I love that I never know where the conversation is going to go really, and I'm not here to guide it or direct it. I'm just here to be in it, and be with it, and to like I'm all about like let's just be who we really are in this
Yeah.
moment together. And sometimes that's afraid, and sometimes that's guarded, and sometimes that's open, and sometimes it's vulnerable, and it like it doesn't matter what it is as long as it's our truth in this moment, and
Yeah.
that is beautiful.
That's right. That's right. That's brilliant. That's such a good reason to do a podcast too, right? Because can I
Yeah.
say it could go anywhere.
And it I do wonder sometimes how many people who really love and crave structure and like there's not a topic every week. The topic is how do you serve and how have you healed and how might that support others? I mean, if I have to like zip it up, but ultimately it's like, what are you intentional about? What lights your fire? What are you passionate about? And why does it matter to the rest of the world? Like, because if it didn't matter to you, you wouldn't be putting it out. And because you're putting it out, it must. And I want to learn more about that because I don't think what fires me up is the only thing that's going to work. You know what I mean? And it probably won't work for most. But the ones that will work for, my hope is that they'll find this podcast. Do you know what I mean? And same with you. Like, not every single person is going to really vibe with exactly what you do and how you do it. But the ones that will change their lives forever for the best because of it. And that's important. But how do we find each other? It's a saturated world, you know?
That's right.
But we're
There's
all unique. So it's not saturated actually, but it
that's
feels it
right.
on the webs, you
It
know?
it can do. It can do. It is interesting because I think not the way that you say things. Because I've had clients over the years that you will be sharing a lesson, you will be sharing, okay, I can see an unconscious pattern or a sabotage program there. And they would go, yeah, 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 yeah. And then come back to you. Oh, I just went and saw Tony Robbins or I went to this obscure, workshop and they said this. And I go, yeah, so did we, but you weren't ready to hear it, or
Yeah,
they said it in a way that made sense to you, Yeah.
that's
I think
it.
I think perhaps so I always when I wrote the book, I knew that women the research is out there. Women are more likely to buy books on relationships than men. Women are more likely to invest in being deliberate around their relationships and making their relationships better. But I called it How to Be Less Shit because I did a survey of some of my friends and their husbands. And I said, if I call it this, if we left it in the bathroom, in the toilet, you call it the bathroom, we call it the toilet. If we left it in the toilet long enough, would you pick it up? And they said yes. And I was like, okay. It's
That's it.
intriguing. Okay, good.
That's it.
And what's interesting is one of my kinesiology colleagues rang me one day and she said, Alfina, I've got this client in their 60s who wants to find a partner, work on relationships. What do I do? Where do I start? And I go, well, give them the book. Just there. Here's a copy, give them the book. And what was intriguing is he read it cover to cover, bought a couple of copies, told his friends all about it, and worked with that kinesiologist on the activities. And after a couple of months, his comments which is what I'm like, okay, that's perfect. That's exactly what I hoped for, but more than I dreamed of, which was that he said, do you know, at the end of all of this, I know who I am, what I want, and how I'm showing up in the world. And I feel good about me. And he said, I would still like a relationship, but if I find somebody, it's a bonus. The gift that I've been given is a relationship with myself. And I was like, perfect, brilliant, brilliant. Because yeah, we don't know where things are going to end up. And so if you're unstructured and the however it goes conversation hits the point with one person, like that's the magic of it because that story is an example of that. It's like perfect. Like my work here is done. If even
Yeah.
only one person got that joy, like
Right.
happy. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that story that you just told too. It speaks to the importance. I don't know if importance is the word I want to use there. The power of self-trust. When you really know who you are, then you know that no matter where you land or what comes your way or doesn't, you're going to be okay because you trust yourself to know what to do next or not do next. You just know how to be and who to
Yeah.
be. And it's such a beautiful example of I just surrender, letting go, all these words, more words that people hate. But for real, I mean, it's just like when you really can, let's see. Like let's just see. And that to just be in that moment and be and trust and know, feel on some level. Know
Yeah.
right now, at least, right? And not a rigid no, but like I know right now, this feels accurate. This feels true. This feels aligned.
Yeah.
It's just such a beautiful place to live life from. And I think
Yeah.
what I'm hearing is the book that you put out to the world needs to be in more toilets. It needs to be in more bathrooms so everybody finds it. I say that with love and respect and truly honoring all that it is. It's a nod to the work that you're doing and how it can ripple out into the world, really, truly. I hope people find it. I hope it takes them somewhere that they've always longed for, but maybe haven't known it until perhaps even just this moment.
Oh, that was rich. That comment there,
I think that
like
was channeled.
it felt it.
Yeah.
Definitely felt it. Wow.
It
Yeah.
happens when I resonate with, what's happening. It's I don't know. I just really appreciate this conversation. I'm so grateful that you that you booked this and I'm curious. I feel like we can wrap it up, but I'm curious if there's I don't know, it's such a big question, but one little nugget or maybe a couple little concepts that you really want to get out into the world, whether you've already said them or maybe something that is just coming in for you, but to wrap us up and lead us on our way for whatever's next.
So I will go back to my main philosophy, which is everything in life is about a relationship. We have a relationship with our family, our friends, God, Allah, Buddha, universe, um, our health, our money. We have a relationship with ourselves. And my philosophy is this: when you get good at relationships, you get a good life. And who doesn't want that, right?
Have the
So
goosebumps. So
yeah,
good.
who doesn't want that? So, and what we find is what I tend to find is when I help people figure this stuff out, everything else falls into place because they've got a blueprint for how to do it well. And and the knock-on effect is the relationships get a better, finances improve, health improves, and all the research is pointing to that. When the research, the Harvard research around happiness indicates so clearly that the quality of our relationships determines the quality of our life. So I I like to say that again. And the other thing is that I've been toying with more recently, and I'm testing this one out, so see how it lands. Is that everyone always says that the only two givens in life, or the things that you cannot avoid, are death and taxes. And yet we're born into relationship purely by being born by our mothers. Like we are carried, but that's a relationship. You cannot do this life without doing them. So why not do them deliberately? Why leave it to chance or our environment, what we've exposed into our environment? Why not learn how to love deliberately?
Beautiful. I'm not even, that's beautiful. That is such a lovely place to wrap up. I want to make sure people know how to find you. Will you say your website again? And I'll put it in the show notes as well.
Yeah, alfinalofaro.com is where you'll find me and all of those things. And you can find me all over social media with the same name.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Alfina. This was delightful. I appreciate you.
You're welcome.
All right. That's a wrap. Bye.